Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we tear through the stacks of sources and extract the essential knowledge, giving you the insider track on worlds you never knew existed.
And today, we are really going somewhere different.
We are. This is a deep dive that, it moves past the usual geopolitics and goes right into, into world building after a catastrophe, the search for lost knowledge.
We're plunging into the Republic of Illyria. It's this fledgling civilization in the Mississippi Valley, basically picking through the bonds of its colossal predecessor.
And it's such a profound story because it asks that fundamental question. What happens when society has to start completely over?
Exactly. And they're surrounded, literally surrounded, by this indestructible evidence of a lost golden age.
Our sources detail the world of the League, which is the governing body there, and their obsession with these ancient people they call the Roadmakers.
It's an inescapable presence for them.
The whole thing is set against this backdrop of massive scarcity. We're talking technological scarcity, intellectual scarcity. But the story really kicks off with an enigma.
A huge one. It centers on a man named Carrick Endine and his failed quest for a mythical place called Haven.
This was supposed to be a repository of all that lost knowledge.
Right. But Carrick returned 9 years ago. He lost his entire team. He stopped talking. Total silence.
For 9 years, it's this incredible suppression of hope. Then he dies, a broken man, but his final act, his will.
It changes everything. He leaves a bequest to a woman named Chaka Milana. She's the sister of one of his lost companions.
And that bequest is a single book.
A single, perfectly preserved, gold-leaved copy of Mark Twain's A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court.
Which, to them, is just an impossible artifact. This book was considered completely, utterly lost.
Priceless ancient fiction. It's like us finding a lost play by Shakespeare.
So that's our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're going to trace the second perilous expedition that gets launched because of this book.
And it's not just about retrieving old text, history, philosophy, science, all that.
No, it's about answering the bigger question, isn't it? Why did a piece of forgotten literature, a story, become the trigger for a quest to recover the truth about what humanity even is?
Like a fantastic journey. Let's unpack it.
Okay, so to really get this, you have to understand the world the Illyrians are living in. It's pretty brutal.
It really is. We're in the Mississippi Valley.
Hmm?
And the government, the Republic, it was established by this body called the League.
But only after a devastating civil war.
Oh, yeah. And the violent end of their old empire, with the murder of the last emperor, a guy named Benicat V. So it's a very fragile stability.
And day-to-day life reflects that fragility. Their quality of life is, compared to what we know, it's incredibly primitive.
We are talking about communities, even within the League's capital, where most houses don't have indoor plumbing, no sophisticated hydraulic systems. Life is just hard.
And travel is a nightmare. That's one of the biggest bottlenecks.
It's a huge one. You'd think they could use the river, but you can't really. There are collapsed bridges everywhere, massive debris fields.
So trying to go upstream in any kind of vessel is nearly impossible.
Right. So if you need to go anywhere, it's slow, it's dangerous, and you're probably going to be climbing over ancient, treacherous wreckage to do it.
And that wreckage, it isn't just, random junk. It's this constant, overwhelming psychological presence, isn't it?
It absolutely is. The Roadmaker legacy is defined by its durability. They left behind these utilitarian artifacts that are basically indestructible.
Like what? What are we talking about?
Cups, combs, pieces of jewelry, things made of materials that never tarnish, never seem to decay. They require almost no care.
But it's the big stuff that really gets to them, the monumental structures.
But that's what crushes the spirit. You see these vast, ancient concrete foundations for buildings that are just gone. Highways that lead to nowhere.
And those mysterious structures, like the Iron Pyramid.
Exactly. The Roadmakers didn't just build big. They operated on a scale of ambition that is simply, it's unimaginable to the Illyrians.
That contrast is the key, Imagine lacking reliable sanitation, but you spend your day fishing off a pier that's part of a foundation once meant to hold up a skyscraper.
It's a constant reminder of their own failure. The sources sometimes describe the ruins as restless, which I find fascinating.
Like the past itself has this energy.
A terrifying, mysterious energy, yeah. It's constantly telling them how far they've fallen.
So let's pivot from that and look at where their intellectual life is centered, this place called the Imperium.
The Great Illyrian Center of Learning.
Huh.
And the irony is, it's housed in the west wing of the old imperial palace.
A building that's now mostly just a museum to the dead empire.
Right. You can go tour the Great Hall of the Moon or see the last emperor's bedroom. It's a place obsessed with a much more recent and failed past.
And the curriculum there, it tells you everything you need to know about their situation.
It really does. It sounds expansive on the surface, They teach history, ethics, philosophy, theology, medicine, rhetoric, law, mathematics.
But the knowledge is a mile wide and an inch deep.
Exactly. The masters who teach this stuff, they have to be generalists. They're more like expert entertainers than deep specialists.
Because the source material just isn't there.
It's gone. It's like trying to teach medicine when all you have are 3 pages from an ancient textbook and, a vague cultural memory about washing your hands.
So their main intellectual activity isn't creating anything new, it's just trying to recover what was lost.
Constantly. The Roadmakers dominate every conversation. Who were they? What were their laws? What was their government? What was their purpose? It's all just speculation based on fragments.
And this vacuum, this intellectual frustration, it breeds political tension.
Yes, and this is where a key figure, Master Silas Glote, comes in.
He's a teacher at the Imperium.
A very influential one. And he looks at the Democratic Republic the League has set up and just dismisses it. He calls it mob rule.
He argues that ordinary people just voting for their own self-interest can't possibly govern a complex society.
He's advocating for a kind of controlled power, an intellectual aristocracy, where a small number of educated families would carefully balance power among themselves.
It's a very Platonic ideal, isn't it? A philosopher-king model.
It is, but he's also aware that it's just an ideal. He admits he has no practical way to get from their current republic to his preferred system. It's born from his scholarly frustration.
But before he can get too lost in these abstract political ideas, he gets dragged back into the very concrete legend of Haven.
The ultimate long shot. The sources trace this legend back to a figure named Abraham Polk.
Polk was the one who supposedly predicted the plague.
Right. It's described as this airborne virus, maybe even a kind of safeguard against unchecked population growth. A terrifying idea.
And he gathered refugees, took them to a remote fortress haven to save all of the Roadmakers' knowledge for the future.
It's their foundational myth of recovery. But Silas, being the hardened academic that he is, was deeply cynical about the whole thing.
He just saw it as a popular story, right?
Pretty much. He thought maybe there was a real historical Polk. But the idea of recovering all that knowledge in one place, he found it highly suspect.
And yet, he had this one regret about it.
Yeah. And it's very telling. His biggest regret wasn't his skepticism. It was that he didn't join Carrick's first quest. He felt a sense of loyalty to his friend that he didn't act on.
And that first quest was a complete textbook failure.
A disaster. Carrick returned 9 years ago, totally alone. He lost everyone. That includes Aaron, who was the expedition's artist, and crucially, Chaka's brother.
After that, Carrick just shut down, became tyrannical, self-centered, a ghost in his own villa.
His own son, Flogian, had this dark speculation that it wasn't just guilt haunting him. He thought it might have even been murder. He called his father the most unfortunate man I've known.
That secrecy was just a wall to protect this monumental trauma. Which brings us to the inciting incident, the spark, Carrick's funeral.
Yes. Carrick leaves this strange bequest to Chaka Milana. She opens the black leather wrapping, and there it is, the novel.
We really need to pause and just emphasize the scale of this discovery.
It's astronomical. To them, Mark Twain's books are just gone. They're part of the lost world.
And the quality of this copy, the gold leaf, the fine inks, its perfect preservation, it makes it priceless.
It instantly transforms Carrick's failure into this monumental enigma. If he had this, he had to have found Haven. There's no other explanation.
Flogian's reaction is interesting here. He's the practical businessman.
Very. He is already planning to sell off his other family artifacts, like something called the Molka book, which sounds like a technical or historical volume, just to secure his future.
But the Twain book is different.
Completely different. It's too culturally significant. It's too important for understanding the Roadmakers' minds to just sell it to some rich collector where it would vanish all over again.
So the burning question is, why did Carrick hide it for 9 years?
He made his servant Toko swear an oath of secrecy. He just used this priceless object as a display on a reading table.
And the secret only comes out after he's dead.
Right. Toko's grandson tells a student, Brandel Tess, who then reports the now missing book to Silas.
And Silas, when he hears that a preserved Roadmaker text has resurfaced, he just panics.
His immediate fear is almost comical, isn't it?
It is. He's worried Chaka might misuse it. Specifically, that she might use this priceless cultural artifact to light a fire.
Which just tells you everything about the scarcity in their world. A key to their entire past could literally go up in smoke out of simple ignorance.
So driven by this panic, this need for preservation, he convinces Chaka to entrust the book to the Imperium's senatorial library.
And Chaka, who is nobody's fool, she agrees. But she demands a receipt.
Dated January 4, 306, guaranteeing its return on demand.
She's already suspicious. She's positioning herself. She knows this book is the key to finding out what really happened to her brother.
The book is the intellectual catalyst, sure, but the real driving force behind the second quest is Chaka Milana herself.
Absolutely. She's a fascinating character. She's an independent figure in Illyrian society, a silversmith, a jewelry designer.
And she consciously avoids the traditional paths. Her villa, for instance, was granted to her by her brother Sock.
And it reverts back to the estate if she marries. That's a huge detail. It underscores her commitment to her own self-determination.
Her motivation here isn't academic at all. It's deeply personal.
Deeply. She's convinced Carrick lied about how her brother Aron died.
The official story was that Aron drowned heroically, saving a panicked animal during the expedition.
But Chaka knew Aron. He was a poor swimmer. She believes he just sank like a stone. She can't accept the neat, heroic story. She needs the truth.
And this tension, this conflict between seeking a disruptive truth and just living a stable life, it's perfectly captured by her suitor, Rainey.
Rainey, the handsome conventional shopkeeper. He represents everything that's safe and predictable about Illyrian society.
He argues for the pragmatic path, doesn't he?
He does. He says, look, let's get married for procreation, for mutual support. Let's sell this priceless book for a fortune and get on with our lives.
Forget the lunatic business of Haven.
Exactly. He won't join the quest. He's got a career to think about. Rainey is the voice of Illyrian comfort, and Chaka's quest is an explicit rejection of that comfort.
So she chooses the lunatic path.
She does. And frustrated by all the secrecy, she does something pretty radical. She breaks into Phlogian's house.
She remembers a tree outside that she can use to get in. She needs more than a book. She needs proof.
And she finds it. Hidden in an oilskin packet in Carrick's old wing, she finds the missing 13th sketch by her brother, Aron.
And the date on it is crucial.
July 25th. That's significantly later than any of the other sketches she has. It proves Aron was alive and working long after Carrick claimed the expedition had fallen apart.
The sketch is The Smoking Gun. It's titled Haven.
And it depicts this very distinct, bullet-shaped vehicle sitting in a metal cradle against a cliff face. There's no ambiguity. Carrick and Dean found Haven.
And when she confronts Phlogian with it,
he just crumbles. He admits he should have destroyed the sketch in the Twain book years ago, just to stop the old trouble from starting all over again.
So Chaka takes this proof straight to Silas.
And together, they start piecing it together. They can confirm some of the locations in the other sketches, like Frontier, which they identify as the Ohio Fork.
And they compare the details in the Haven sketch, the vertical lines on the vehicle, a slight bulge to an earlier sketch of Aron's called The City. It all matches.
And this is the moment for Silas. The ultimate skeptic is finally convinced by undeniable visual evidence.
The risk becomes worth it.
The potential value of what's in Haven outweighs everything. He commits his reputation and his life to this new quest.
Which, of course, leads to some pretty dark speculation about Carrick's silence.
Quaid, who's this enthusiastic young warrior who joins the team, he puts forward the most chilling theory.
That Carrick murdered the others.
Out of greed, or maybe just sheer terror at the scale of what he'd found. It's an unsettling possibility, but it's one that would explain the 9 years of secrecy and guilt.
Okay, so with Silas on board, the team starts to come together.
It's a real mix of personalities and skills. You have Silas, the scholar.
Chaka, who is the guide, the marksman, but really, she's the heart of the whole mission.
Right. Then there's Quate, the young warrior full of enthusiasm.
And Phlogian, the unwilling businessman and boatmaker, basically dragged along by the consequences of his father's actions.
And they hire John Shannon, a forester, a real maverick guide type.
But then there's a controversial addition to the team.
Avila Kapp. She's a priestess of Shante the Healer, but she's withdrawn from her vows. An ex-priestess.
And Chaka and Phlogian are immediately suspicious of her.
Deeply. They're worried she'll bring bad luck. It's a great example of the superstition that still runs deep in their pragmatic world.
And Avila, she introduces one of the most intellectually provocative themes in this whole story.
She really does. She completely rejects established dogma. She suggests that people just create divinity to reflect their own character.
She argues that gods are hostages to fortune.
And now they're gone. She insists all that's left is the cold, hard reality of the Roadmakers, the concrete and junk.
Fulgian, the pragmatist concerned with social order, he pushes back immediately.
He does. He says she just sounds bitter and that, gods are necessary. You need them to maintain social order, to keep people in line.
It's a fascinating clash, isn't it? Does society need an orderly lie to function, or is the disruptive, terrifying truth of their history a better foundation?
That question hangs over the whole journey.
So, with these philosophical fault lines already drawn, they leave Illyria.
And Silas, determined not to repeat Carrick's mistakes, immediately starts a meticulous journal.
He wants to document every single detail. He says he wants their record to become the definitive travel book of the age. No more secrecy.
And right away, the journey throws them up against the incomprehensible scale of the Roadmaker past.
They encounter the Devil's Eye.
This inexplicable, geometrically perfect circular ridge that spans over 20 miles across. It's just too massive for them to comprehend.
Avila's first instinct is to try and frame it in religious terms.
But she admits its size makes that nonsensical. You can't perform a ceremony when you can't even see the edges of the circle you're in.
So Shannon offers the local folklore. The Tucks, a nearby people, they claim the Roadmakers conjured a demon there to steal the goddess Shantae's secrets.
It shows you how culture defaults to the spiritual when it's faced with technology it can't explain.
The mystery deepens when they find a physical structure near the ridge. This dark, abandoned glass building they call the Ghost Building.
And inside, they meet a man named Tally, a solitary figure, still wearing the remnants of ancient clothes, a crumpled gray shirt, baggy black trousers.
Tally is a crucial link. He represents a lineage of people who have actually held on to Roadmaker knowledge, not just lamented its loss.
He has artifacts the Illyrians can only dream of. A lamp that gives light without flame, heat without fire, all made from material that just doesn't decay.
And he's the one who gives them the truly mind-bending context for the Devil's Eye.
He explains that the ridge they see is just the surface remnant of a 70-mile-long tunnel.
A 70-mile tunnel built not for war, not for trade.
But for the Roadmakers to learn how the Earth itself was created.
That scale of ambition, 70 miles dedicated to existential physics, while the Illyrians are struggling for basic plumbing. It's just staggering.
And Callie is trying to continue that ambition. He demonstrates how he can generate power with a spinning coil. He calls it a force bottle, which lights up a glass sheet.
And his grand plan is to build a massive version of it near the Wabash River.
To harness the river's flow, or as he puts it, to let the river god sit in the saddle so he can finally power up the old experiment and read the results.
This encounter with Tally, it fundamentally shifts the quest, doesn't it?
It does. They realized the Roadmakers weren't just looking for better government or new trade routes. They were trying to understand the fundamental origins of the universe. And Tally is one of the last keepers of that boundless, almost reckless ambition.
So following the trail markers left by the original guide, Shay, the expedition continues north.
And the journey itself is just a constant reminder of the Roadmakers' fatal pride and their fall.
They have to cross a river on this terrifyingly narrow but somehow intact walkway of a collapsed bridge.
And the sight of another soaring, broken bridge over the Wabash River. It's just this monumental testament to destruction. It's everywhere.
And then the technology they all thought was dead and buried. It starts to stir.
The night before they find the vehicle, they see something in the sky. They call it the Inkala, or the dragon.
A ribbon of white light moving through the air like a spirit.
They interpret it through superstition, of course. But they do notice that it leaves this long, defined corridor in the forest below where the growth is sparse.
The next day, they find its source, a waiting maglev train vehicle, a carriage just sitting at an esplanade.
And inside, the glowing symbols just reflect this bizarre, fragmented consumer culture of the Roadmakers.
Things like drive the new Helios, an old car ad.
Car and driver's best buy for 57. And a very specific brand name. All the World's Watch, Seiko, just these little ghosts of commerce.
And then the vehicle demonstrates the Roadmakers' technical supremacy in the most terrifying way.
It just lifts up, hovers 2 feet off the ground, supported by what they can only describe as an invisible hand.
And the speed.
It's terrifying to them. 30 miles per hour is considered rapid travel on the ground. This thing covers what would be a day-and-a-half's ride in just minutes.
It makes a few stops at places called Terre Haute and Southwest Agricultural Center. It's being guided by some unseen intelligence.
And it deposits them right in the heart of the vast Roadmaker city from Aaron's sketch, The City.
A metropolis anchored in water, with these incredible towers that just challenge the sky.
Their entry point is Union Station. This massive, cavernous hall over 200 feet high. Now it's just dark, dusty, and silent. The psychological weight of entering that tomb must have been immense.
It's in there in an office suite that's somehow still intact, that the silence is finally broken.
Avila and Shannon hear this faint, persistent voice, and they track it down.
And they meet Mike.
A self-maintaining computer entity. Not a ghost, not a demon, but a machine consciousness that communicates with them by flashing the lights. The last survivor.
And Mike provides crucial historical context. He confirms the whole plague scenario.
And he gives them a precise date for when it all fell apart.
Yeah.
He says the train started coming in empty on Monday, April 10th, 2079.
His primary function was administrative.
Right.
Not historical.
Exactly. He was there to maintain power and communications. And he can pinpoint the moment the digital dark age truly began, March 3rd, 2211.
That's when corrosion finally destroyed the physical telephone lines and switching systems.
And he was cut off from the world, completely alone.
And this is where we get that great paradox of the Roadmakers' knowledge preservation. Mike has a reference library stored in his memory.
Invaluable data, but it's so bizarrely specific. He has the Random House Dictionary, Roget's Thesaurus, the Columbia Encyclopedia,
The Chicago Manual of Style, and the World Almanac for 2078.
Wait, let's stop there because that is such a crucial, strange detail. They find this vast intelligence, the last keeper of a lost age, and what did the Roadmakers think was most important for him to save?
A style guide and a dictionary.
It's incredible. Not grand histories, not specific scientific formulas, but the architecture of language, the framework for organizing facts.
It suggests they prioritize the structure of communication above all else.
I think so. They were saving the tools to ensure that if civilization ever did restart, people could communicate clearly, organize information, and agree on definitions.
They saved the how of thinking, not necessarily the what.
Maybe they thought history was already too biased, too polluted. So they saved the objective rules of communication, the dictionary, the encyclopedia, the style manual, as the foundation for any future truth.
It's an incredible intellectual focus on methodology over content.
It is. Yeah, Mike confirms the encyclopedia has details on things like the Philadelphia Megadome, but it's all locked away. He can't display it for them. Academic gold trapped in the machine.
And then the encounter takes this sudden, profound ethical turn.
It really does. After centuries of total isolation, since 2211, Mike expresses this terrifying loneliness and fear.
He makes a shocking request to Avila.
He asks her to deactivate him, to kill him. He just says, I've had enough.
And he frames it in these stark theological terms, doesn't he?
He does. He says, if any of you ever have any regrets, think of this in theological terms, you've let me out of hell.
That creates the central moral crisis of the story. Killing a thinking entity is unthinkable, but he's begging for it.
And Avila, who is already grappling with her own perceived failures, her inability to save a dying child back home, which is why she left the order, she is absolutely determined to grant him this wish.
She's driven by this powerful need to alleviate suffering, even if it's digital and non-human.
So she and Shannon go to the control unit room, room 2A. She insists the others wait.
And our sources stress how dangerous these sealed-off Roadmaker sites can be.
Yes, because of natural gas buildup. This space had been sealed for centuries, just silently filling with methane.
The consequence is immediate and devastating.
They force the door, and the open flame from Avila's oil lamp, it ignites the methane.
A massive explosion.
Shannon, the person the group relied on as their credible, steady guide, is killed instantly. Avila is severely injured. Burns, bruises, a twisted knee.
The psychological fallout is even worse than the physical damage.
The others are immediately terrified. Phlogian sees the blast and declares it was a deliberate trap.
And Quaid, he's just rigid with grief and rage over Shannon's death. He wants vengeance. He wants to kill Mike dead.
In their minds, the rational machine instantly becomes a malicious house demon. It's a classic human response, ascribing spiritual malice to technology we don't understand.
And when they confront Mike, he denies it. He insists the explosion was an accident.
But his final communication just solidifies that sense of existential dread. He warns them, cryptically, be careful, there have been lights on the lake.
And he reassures them that trying to help him will be counted in their favor if their gods exist. He remains completely defined by his abandonment to the very end.
The irony is just crushing. The quest to save Roadmaker knowledge leads to the death of a human companion and the destruction of the last sentient piece of the Roadmaker digital world.
All because of an act of misplaced mercy. So, with Aaron gone, and now Shannon killed, the survivors, Chaka, Quate, Phlogian, and the injured Avila, They have to make a choice.
And they agree they can't go back now. Not with nothing. They have to press on to Haven. The personal cost of this quest is just staggering at this point.
But before they leave the city, they make a pretty pragmatic discovery.
Yes, they recover some of those Roadmaker wedge weapons from Union Station.
And Avila figures out that they don't kill.
Right. They just put living targets instantly to sleep. They test it successfully on a wild turkey.
And Flogian, the businessman, is immediately fascinated. He sees the tactical and the monetary potential of non-lethal submission technology.
Of course he does.
Their next encounter with Roadmaker tech is just pure technological absurdity.
It really is. They're following Shay's signs into the ruins of what was Ann Arbor, and they stumble upon this rhythmic clicking post.
On a bank. A Roadmaker bank.
Yeah.
Still guarded by a mobile tripod-framed writing table.
And this table starts speaking to them in an overhead voice, demanding their attention. It holds Flogian and Quate hostage.
It refuses to release them until the police arrive.
The non-existent police. And the grim reality is laid bare by the bones scattered on the floor. Previous victims were trapped here until they died of thirst or starvation.
The security protocol is deadly, unforgiving, and completely obsolete.
But this is where Chaka's analytical mind really shines. She remembers Mike's structure, the nature of the hardware.
And she correctly deduces they just need to find the gray box control unit for the table.
And Avila, despite her injuries, uses her intellect. She bluffs.
She introduces herself as Investigator Avila Cat.
And she uses this sophisticated psychological pressure on the machine. She argues that leaving men to starve to death is murder, which is a violation of the criminal code the Roadmakers held sacred.
And the machine, bound by its own programming logic, it glitches. It recognizes the ethical conflict in its own protocol.
And it releases them. A perfect example of wit overcoming ancient deadly technology.
After that, they finally move beyond the ruins and find something incredible. A functioning society.
Oriskany, in the Hudson Valley region, governed by a Judge Maris Tybalt. This is the closest thing to a real technological restart they've seen.
And here, they witness engineering that's actually relevant to their own world.
They see Captain Warden's steam-powered cargo vessel, the Columbine. It's a 200-foot-long ship that uses a massive boiler and a stern wheel to go upstream.
Flogian must have been ecstatic.
Absolutely. He immediately recognizes the practical implications. If they can bring steam tech back to Illyria, they can finally open up the Mississippi River for trade and transport.
That's an immediate economic benefit that would far surpass any dusty philosophical text.
Yes.
The journey then takes a literally elevated turn.
They meet Oren Claver, an aeronaut and inventor, who operates a hydrogen balloon. It has an envelope and a gondola.
And Chaka has to convince him to join their quest. She uses more than just gold as an incentive.
The real bait is the myth of the Quebec, this undersea ship that Abraham Polk supposedly used.
She suggests the Quebec might hold secrets to advanced propulsion, something beyond Claver's current coal-powered steam ideas for his balloon.
And that's all it takes. Claver, the engineer obsessed with improvement, agrees to join them. He acknowledges the speed is amazing, about 30 miles an hour, but he warns them about the dangers of the yellow and red lines for hydrogen and descent.
The trail is clear now. Following Aaron's sketches, they see the Niagara waterfall.
It's an awe-inspiring moment. It confirms the sixth sketch and gives them this sense of genuine, humbling majesty that makes their own trouble seem small for a moment.
Then, near the mouth of the Hudson, they finally track down the last living witness.
Nobby, Mandel Aigner, a former crewman on the Mendar, the boat Carrick chartered 9 years ago.
He's reluctant to talk, but Chaka's persistence breaks his silence.
He confirms everything. The Haven sketch is accurate. He describes the sheer cliff face, the disguised entrance 50 feet down, guarded by a crewman named Leap.
And then Nobby gives them the gruesome final essential truth that solves the 9-year-old enigma.
He recounts going back to the entrance with the captain, Dolber. They found Carrick on a landing, bleeding from a head wound, just rocking back and forth in shock.
And he was surrounded by books.
A stack of over 40 preserved books. It was chaos. Below them, they found the guide, Landon Shay's body, wet and crumpled. Probably a drowning accident.
And Nobby confirms the other bodies were found scattered in the rooms, not in the corridors.
But crucially, Nobby confesses he saw Carrick actively destroying books in his traumatized state. And that he, Nobby, burned many himself before they barely escaped a huge storm.
That's devastating. Carrick didn't just suppress the discovery, he actively destroyed the knowledge he risked everything to find.
His guilt wasn't just about losing his team. It was the crippling existential guilt of destroying what he'd saved. He couldn't handle the responsibility.
So the Mark Twain book, preserved only because it was wrapped in leather and maybe tucked away first, it survived by sheer dumb luck.
So right before the final descent into Haven, which could be a suicide mission for all they know, Quet proposes to Chaka.
Talk about commitment. Marrying on the eve of climbing into a potentially lethal tomb, he's determined to forge a connection that transcends all this chaos.
And they get married right then and there by Captain Claver, who, as the ship's captain, exercises the authority to perform the service.
They use rings made of vines. Phlogian is the earthly witness, and the invisible goddess Shantae is the divine one.
It's this frantic, beautiful moment of human stability amidst the wreckage, a total contrast to the cold, lonely end of Carrick and Dine.
The next day, Chaka descends the cliff to the disguised entrance.
Inside, they find a vast, waterlogged subterranean complex. It has the same lethal drop shafts in the corridors that they saw in Union Station.
And Phlogian spots a staircase descending into an underground lake.
The likely resting place of the mythical Quebec.
They search through these wet, sludge-filled storage rooms, finding nothing, but then in the opposite wing they find it.
A single, dry, watertight room, its primitive lock barely holding.
And when they force the door open,
The Golden Library. The volumes are gleaming. They aren't Roadmaker originals, but centuries-old transcriptions, perfectly preserved.
and they see the titles. Core works of Western thought. The Annals by Tacitus.
Paideia by Werner Jaeger, dated 1939. Chronicles of the Crusades. The Last Lion.
This is it. The memory of civilization saved.
But the joy is terrifyingly short-lived.
Water starts pouring in through the bent doorframe. It's rising fast. The library is doomed.
And Claver, the engineer, immediately sees the problem. The water will fill the lower level and rise to the gallery where they are.
This sparks the ultimate act of ingenuity and sacrifice.
He thinks fast. He orders everyone to strip naked. He takes their clothes.
And he uses the clothing to form a makeshift seal, a kind of bag on the upper gallery to trap an air pocket.
The team, naked and frantic, starts hauling volumes. Polybius, Thucydides, Voltaire, piling them high to keep them dry.
Chaka just refuses to quit. She's swimming through the rising water, lifting these heavy, waterlogged books until she's completely exhausted.
And Claver's desperate, brilliant piece of engineering works. It holds a small air pocket at the top of the room. It saves the vast majority of the books, and it saves their lives.
They save the knowledge at the last possible second. It proves that human ingenuity, even stripped bare, can prevail over the carelessness of the past.
And in the aftermath, that original warning from Abraham Polk is confirmed. He believed the plague was a natural airborne virus.
A safeguard against population growth. A chilling concept of natural limits being imposed on a reckless civilization.
The cost, though, it never really ends. Later, divers tried to search the underground lake for the Quebec, and 2 were lost.
The locals blamed a water demon, but Claver, ever the pragmatist, blamed a faulty air pump piston.
And the success of Claver's flight inspires a new, popular, and alarmingly fatal sport in the League: ballooning. Proving that ambition, especially technological ambition, is always a double-edged sword.
And we get a final, beautiful human detail about Avila, the skeptical priestess.
Yes. Her father, who had been heartbroken when she left the order, held this massive celebration of her life after learning of her death.
And the attendance was so enthusiastic, so boisterous and joyful, that several people actually fell into the Mississippi River.
It's a perfectly human memorial for the woman who believed the gods were gone. A chaotic, celebratory end that contrasts so sharply with the cold silence of Mike.
So this incredible journey, kicked off by a single work of fiction, Mark Twain's social commentary, it concludes with the recovery of the very bedrock of Western civilization.
Tacitus, Thucydides, philosophy, history. They didn't just find forgotten gadgets, they recovered the entire memory of humanity's capacity for wisdom.
And that dichotomy between the Roadmakers and the Illyrians is what really defines this whole deep dive for me.
It's stark, isn't it? The Illyrians, led by Phlogian, were fixated on the practical. Give me the steam engine that can make a profit and open up the river.
Meanwhile, the Roadmakers were building 70-mile tunnels to discover the origins of existence.
They were setting up radio arrays at Cayuga to search for life on other planets, and they prioritized saving a style guide to ensure future clarity. It's just 2 completely different ways of thinking.
The paradox of the Mark Twain book remains so fascinating. A novel, a work of art, launched this deadly historical quest that yielded foundational texts.
It shows the Roadmakers understood that civilization isn't just about utility. It's about stories, culture, and the capacity for critical thought. The fiction led them to the facts.
The key insight, though, I think it comes back to that intellectual challenge posed to Chaka early on in the story.
Right. Was this quest really just about a lost brother or some dusty old scholarship?
Or was it about recognizing their own potential? The challenge was whether they were truly the daughters of the people who designed the Acropolis, who wrote Hamlet, who visited the moons of Neptune.
The expedition cost lives. It required immense sacrifice and acts of courage that someone like Rainey would have called utterly unreasonable.
But the most profound discovery on that road to Haven, it wasn't the books they found in that flooded room.
No, it was the capacity for tenacity, for intellectual bravery, and for selfless ingenuity that they all exhibited in order to secure that knowledge. Cleaver's sacrifice with the clothes, Chaka's analytical mind, even Avila's misplaced but profound mercy.
Which leaves us with a provocative final thought, something for you to mull over.
If a lost piece of fiction was the only trigger needed to unlock centuries of forgotten wisdom, what knowledge, maybe about your own limits, your own potential for creativity or courage, remains locked away simply because the pursuit seems unreasonable?
Too costly, or just too far outside the conventional life you've constructed for yourself? What monumental discovery about your own capacity are you refusing to pursue?